Hello class, and welcome back with Mrs. Struble. Today we're going to talk about adding integers. Now remember that an integer is a positive or negative whole number. And for example, we have -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, so on and so forth, okay? I'm going to teach you a couple different ways to add integers. The first way is to use a number line. When we use a number line to add integers, let's just have an example here. Let's do 4 plus a -4, okay, just to start us out. When we use a number line, our goal is first we start at 0. We're going to take that first number, in this case it's 4, and we're going to go to that number. So we're going to go straight to 4. In other words, we're going to go positive 4 spots. And now we take a look at the second number, and it says -4, which means we're going to go back 4 spots from where we left off. So we go back 4 spots, and we end up right back at 0. So the answer in this case is 0. Okay, let's go ahead and do another. Let's try -1 plus -3. Okay, so what if they're both negatives? We still start at 0. We take our first number, which is -1, which means we're going to go in the negative direction 1 spot, okay, which leaves us at -1. And now we're going to go to add -3, which means we're going to go 3 spots more in the negative direction. Okay, so negative direction. All right, so we left off at -1. We go 1, 2, 3 spots more in the negative direction. Where are we at? We're at -4. So -4 is our answer. Okay, so the answer is, where do you leave off? Okay, where do you end up at? Let's do one final example. -2 plus 6. Okay, again, starting at 0, we're going to go 2 in the negative direction, -2. Okay, so we end up at -2. Boom. And now from that point, we're going to add 6. Add 6. So we're going to go 6 in the positive direction. So 6 spots from where we left off at -2 in the positive direction. And now we have to figure out where we're at. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots right there. What is that? Well, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Our answer is 4. Oops. Yeah, 4. Okay. All right. And that's how we use number lines in order to add integers. The next method I'm going to teach you is how to use what are called counters to add integers. Okay, so for this one, we again have a couple of different examples. And really, we have to understand that we have 2 numbers being combined together. In this case, we have 4 negatives over to the left and 2 negatives over to the right. Okay, adding means to be put together, so we're going to put them together in a little bin. And we're going to essentially just count up how much do we have all together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're all negatives. So we have 6 negatives, or -6 as in our answer. It's a lot easier when they're all negatives, but what if there's 1 negative and 1 positive? Now what happens? So let's take a look at this example. We have 8 negatives, so I'm going to put +5. So 8 negatives, we're going to put 8 negative signs, so to represent that -8. 7, 8, okay. And then we have 5 positives over here, 5 positives, and we're going to put them all together. We notice that something happens in this case. When we look closely, there's 1 positive and 1 negative when we're combining them. Well, that equals 0, okay? This is what we call a 0 pair. We're looking for our 0 pairs to help us figure out what equals 0 and what's left after we take all those zeros out, because 0 is nothing. Okay, so let's look again. Here's another 0 pair. that cancels out. A negative and a positive, that equals 0. Negative and positive, positive, negative, all of those are equal to 0. Okay, so we have 0 and then whatever's left. Well, when we're adding 0 don't count, remember? So what do we have left? We have 1, 2, 3, and they're all negatives. So our answer is going to be -3. And that's how we use counters. Okay. Now this doesn't work so well when the numbers get really high, because then you're just messing with a lot of different little chips. So we have another method using what's called an algorithm. In other words, a rule. So we have a rule that we follow. We have a couple of them actually. We have a rule if we have, like in this example, 1 negative and 1 positive. And then we have another rule if we have a problem where both of the numbers have the same sign, 2 negatives or 2 positives. Well, we already know how to add positive numbers, so we're not going to worry about reviewing that. We're going to focus on what if they're both negatives. Okay, so let's start with that. What if they are both negatives? Well, there's a fun little saying. So -8 plus -5. They're both negatives, which means they have the same sign. So our saying is, the same sign, we take the sum, the sign stays the same. Oh my gosh, I know that's a mouthful. It's kind of fun to say. Go ahead. Okay, so same sign, you take the sum, the sign stays the same. What that means is, since they are both negatives, they're the same sign. They're both negatives. We're going to end up taking the sum of their absolute values. Whoops. Absolute value. Oh dear, that's not an A. All right. Okay, so we're going to take the absolute value of -8, which is 8, and the absolute value of -5, which is 5. And we're going to add them together. We're going to take the sum of their absolute values. So 8 plus 5, 13. Now we deal with the rest of this. It says the sign stays the same, which means they started negative. We're going to finish them negative. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at the what if one's negative and one's positive. -12 and plus 25. Okay. Well, these are not the same sign. They are different signs. So we have another phrase that says different signs, we take the difference and the greatest value wins the sign. And I'm going to walk you through what those mean. Okay. So these are different signs. One's negative, one's positive. Which means we're going to take the difference, well, both starting with D's, of their absolute values. So we're going to subtract their absolute values. So the absolute value of -12 is 12, and the absolute value of 25 is 25. Okay. Subtracting those two numbers, we get 13. Okay. Now we took the difference. We have to ask ourselves which one had the greater absolute value. So when we say value in this case, we're talking about absolute value. And it was the 25. That's why it went on top when we subtracted to find the difference. 25 is a positive, so our answer is a positive. Okay, so different signs. You take the difference, you subtract the absolute values, and then the one with the greatest absolute value, that 25 in this case, wins the sign. Okay, think of it this way. We have more negatives than we have positives. Okay, so the answer is gonna be positive. All right, so in this video, I taught you 3 different ways, 1, 2, 3, of how to add integers. Okay. There you go. All right. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.